All right, guys. Take two. We're going to try this again. I'm going to give it a minute or two for anyone to come in who planned on joining. The movement component of today's mini workshop is going to be a little bit shorter than anticipated. So the discussion component will still begin at 12. So from now until then, we are going to be connecting with our bodies, finding our flow, and maximizing our synergy. So with further ado, let's get right to it. We're going to start off with a few Qigong movements just to get our body a little warmer and get things moving. So just start to sway back and forth. You're going to allow your arms to relax and fall wherever they hit your body. Little Qigong body drumming. Just notice your spine. Feel yourself standing up nice and tall, as if you're reaching the top of your head towards the ceiling, and keep your knees slightly bent, feeling the ground beneath your feet. Whew. Notice the weight transfer on your feet as you're going back and forth. And then very slowly come to a stop, progressively slowing down until your arms are by your side. Close your eyes and just tune in. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll your shoulders. Notice your breath. Is your breath shallow? Are you breathing into the chest or into your belly? Just notice and then think about expanding your rib cage like a balloon as you breathe. Very nice. Now that we are tuned in and connected with our physical body, the first Qigong exercise we will be doing today will start with our feet a slight bit wider than hip width apart. Knees are soft, toes are engaged. Chest is lifted, shoulders are relaxed. So we are going to think about merging the movement of our body with the tempo of our breath. So that's really the biggest component for this Qigong stuff. As we inhale, the arms are going to come out to the side with the palms up. And then on an exhale, you're going to bring your hands down your midline until you reach around your face or chest. And you're going to push forwards. And then continue to bring your arms around, almost like you're swimming. Continue to pull your hands back as far as you can, feeling your shoulder blades retract. And then still extending, drawing out that exhale as our hands return to that starting point. And then same thing, repeat. Inhale, hands come up. Expand the belly, expand the chest. Super slow exhale through the nose. Bring the hands down. And then visualize your hands moving any stuck, stagnant, or negative energy out of your field. And then clear it all the way around. Again, really feel those shoulder blades retract. Find your own rhythm. Sink into your own tempo. You don't have to stay with me. You can either focus more so on your breath and allow your body to follow, or you can focus on the movement and think about syncing your breath with that movement. Maybe play around. Try each version. So we're just going to do a few more. Relax your hands. Your hands might start to feel a little bit buzzy as you get deeper into flow. That's good. That's your chi. Good. We're just going to do a couple more. Full breath in. Slowing down the breath, slowing down the mind by means of slowing down our body. All right, for this last one, when we push our hands forward on the exhale, we're going to do so right in front of the heart. And visualize we are sending our heart chakra energy out from us into the world. So last one, inhale, hands come out to the side. And up, slow extended exhale. Melt those hands down to the chest. Feel your heart. And relax. Very nice. Continue with the body drumming by swaying back and forth and just allowing your arms and shoulders to relax entirely. Moving right along. Grab some water if you need it. So I'm also streaming. I'm streaming both on YouTube and TikTok. So for anyone watching on TikTok and you're wondering why I'm looking over you, I got my laptop set up here. The YouTube chat is on, but I turned off the chat on TikTok because that'd be too much to keep up with. I like to just have one place where people can chat. So going to be mixing it up and experimenting with this. Anyways, hello, Samantha. Great to have you. Next one, we're going to get that lower body warmed up and open. We're going to bring our feet a little bit wider than before, fairly wide. I believe this is called the horse stance in Qigong. So allow those toes to just slightly turn out until your hips feel comfortable. Just sway here for a moment, side to side, maybe a few circles. Notice the femur bone coming into that hip socket. Notice the pull through your ankles as you move your hips. All right, from here, this one's called under the fence. So the base position will be low like so. Your hands are going to be on top of your knees. Your hips are back over your heels. From here, you're going to inhale, come over to one side, and slowly stand up as you rotate your chest and head away from forward facing. And then on the exhale, you're going to come all the way back down. So you can start by coming into this squat in a more shallow form, so about here, and then sway over to the other side. Inhale up, exhale down, and as you feel more comfortable, sink a little bit deeper. Inhale up, exhale down. Strong, grounded feet. Inhale up, exhale down. We're moving in slow motion. You want to feel your body moving as continuous and fluid as water. Find your own rhythm. Another way to emphasize a different area of your body doing this one is to keep the hips up a little bit higher and allow the head to drop lower to a place where it's almost completely dead weight and you're just hanging. So you're hanging and then slowly re-engaging that stability through the base of the spine as you stand up. A few more. Focus on the breath. Listen to your body. And if you want to get deeper into this movement, close your eyes. This is going to encourage other areas involved in proprioception to fire up a little bit more to compensate for the lack of visual input coming into the body. Last one each direction. Make this last one your deepest squat. Fullest exhale, drawing the belly button towards the spine. Biggest inhale. Feel your rib cage expand all directions. Look over your shoulder. Feeling a nice stretch through the neck. And then slowly stand back up in neutral. Very nice. Give those legs a little bit of a shake. Depending on how much weight you had on your hands versus holding it in your legs, those legs might be feeling a little burned. Oh, welcome, greatest ever. Thanks for being here. Good to have you. Now, our last Qigong movement before we move on to the next component is, I don't have a name for it, but I'm just going to show you. Coming back to a ever so slightly wider than hip width apart stance. From here, we are going to inhale, pulling our thumbs back, elbows back, and shoulders back. You're even going to lean back a little as your eyes gaze up towards the ceiling. Now, on the exhale, you're going to bring your hands in front of your face or even a little bit above your head, getting working with that crown chakra. And you're going to slowly push that energy all the way down your central vertical column and come down into a squat, making sure that your back is fairly straight. We don't want to be rounding too much. We want to train postural stability of our spine here. So we're pushing down, keeping our back straight. Now you can allow the shoulders to round slightly just to feel a nice stretch through those shoulder blades back there. But for the most part, try to keep your back straight. And then continuing the sequence, inhaling up, pull those thumbs and elbows back. Exhale, gather any excess or unnecessary thoughts. Bring them down your midline, out the root, down to the core of the earth. The more you can use your imagination and visualization, the more you're going to get out of any energy work. A big component of moving energy is awareness and breath. Where focus goes, energy flows. Another thing you can imagine is as you're inhaling, standing up, that you're pulling up energy from the earth's core and you're just spreading it all over the front side of your aura. Really exaggerate the inhale with the elbows and wrists pulling back, feeling the stretch through the front of the pecs, or front of the chest in the pectoralis major and minor region, and some other muscles in there too. Let's just do 3 more. Inhale and exhale. In and out the nose for these. If you feel comfortable and up for it, you can even bring your hands all the way down to the ground, coming into an even deeper squat. Listen to your body. Make it what you're able to do here and now. Last 2. Make these your biggest breaths yet. Slow, steady, fluent breaths. Last one. Gather any excess thoughts. Bring them down your body, out the root to the center of the earth. One more inhale. Spread that earth energy all over you. And exhale, relax. Woo, very nice. Continue to sway just to keep your chi flowing. How much time we got? Okay. So normally I would be doing these exercises for longer periods of time, but because we had some technical difficulties to start off with, today's is going to be a little bit more condensed. So yes. Oh, that felt really nice. So glad to hear. Yeah, it's amazing when we open, especially when we open the areas around the rib cage that allow us to breathe easier. We're going to feel a big effect. Yeah. Oh, great to have you, Sentinel. Moving right along. So now we're going to do 3 movements for the fitness component of this movement class. So these are going to be a little bit more challenging, working with our neuromyofascial system. So this is, it's basically just the fascia system, which I'll explain in more detail when we get to the fascial release component. But let's just do it and you can feel for yourself, and I'll explain things as we go. For this first one, waking up our posterior chain, waking up our deep core, waking up our balance, or all the areas and systems that contribute to balance. So go ahead and start off with one foot planted and the other foot back behind you. Take a moment to just notice your shoulders over your hips, feeling the muscles in your back, such as the erector spinae, which run vertically, basically from here up to the back of your neck, and our thoracocolumnar fascia, which contributes to lower back stability as we're bending forward. So that's going to be getting some work and attention here too. So we're planted on one foot, other foot's in the air behind us. We are going to then drop the chest as we simultaneously lift the back leg. You want to feel as though you're a teeter-totter. So all of this is remaining in a straight line. You're going to relax your arms in front of you as you come into this first phase. Then you are going to lift one arm forward as you lift that back leg a little bit higher, and then bring it back down. Same thing with the other arm. Now, as you do this with one on each side, I want you to notice how it feels with one arm versus the other. That's going to change the physics and mechanics of our muscular system required to do so. And then we're going to switch each time. So as I'm demonstrating the first few reps of the movement, I'm usually going to take it slower, explain it a little bit deeper, but once we get going, it's more movement and less talking. This is another one where you can advance it or modify it based on what you need. So if you just want something simple and easy, stay right about here. 1 and 1. If you want to challenge yourself, drop down a little bit further, bend the base knee a little bit more. Same thing. 1, 2. It just increases the force and workload of that posterior chain. So find a rhythm. We want to continue at a nice slow and steady Qigong pace. When we move slow like this, we are better engaging our fascial system. When we do quick, explosive movements, that's more so working with our musculoskeletal system. But the goal is to work on all of those systems simultaneously, because that's what they're designed to do, is operate in coherence. So that's how we want to train them, training coherence and elasticity among all the systems. In particular, the fascial system, because it is the matrix, the web that acts as glue and holds everything together. So keep it going. Remember to breathe. You want to feel your belly button drawing back towards your spine. This is going to activate the deepest layer of our core and help you to balance better, as well as stabilize the lower back here. Again, listen to your body on how much to challenge it. And each time you stand up, make sure you're feeling that position of neutral when all your joints and bones are stacked properly, and then notice the change as you lean forward. We're aiming to feel it in our mid and lower back, as well as our glute medius and glute minimus, which are deep glute muscles. All right, now for these last few, I want you to bring awareness to your shoulders. As you lift your arm and that back leg, I want you to feel your shoulder pulling down towards your hip, and notice that your elbow and wrist are rotating around that stabilized joint. Now, if you notice that when you go to lift your arm, that the first place of motion is in the shoulder, you're not getting too much of those scap stabilizers we're looking to get in this. So pull it down, hold it strong, lift as high as you can. It's more so just about noticing and then making the little adaptations and micro adjustments we need to target the area we're addressing. Whew. That thoracocolumnar fascia should be firing up quite a bit by now. Curious to know, anyone on the YouTube channel, is there any major difference you're noticing as you lift either arm? What you're most likely going to find is that when your right leg is back and you lift the right arm with that right leg, it might be a little more challenging to keep balance because we're using the limb on the same side of the body. So the left side is having to root deeper to find that stability to accommodate such motion. But when there's contralateral weight as the left arm and right leg go back, the core can stabilize a little bit easier because we have this spiral line of fascia that connects our shoulders to our hips in a opposition-like motion. I don't think that's the right word to use there, but you know what I mean. Okay, last one each side. Make it your best one yet. Go down as far as you can. Relax your shoulders completely. Fire it up. Relax. Fire it up. Relax. And when you're lower in this position, you might even notice that diagonal cross pull. So as I'm lifting my right shoulder, there's a connection point with my left hip. Last one, other side. Last one, best one. Teeter-totter. Base leg is strong. Woo, toes are gripping the ground. Core is strong. Lift arm and leg, same side. Opposition. Very nice. Woo, shake out your legs, shake out your arms, roll those shoulders. Grab some water if you need it. We got about 22 more minutes of this movement flow class. We have one more fitness-focused sequence, and then the last 3 will be focused on self-fascial release. So not only are we adding stability and integrity to the parts of our system that need it to hold us up tall and straight, but we're also removing the areas that are pulling us out of place. So you got to address both if you want to see real effects or efficient effects. Both, really. That one was a challenge, yes. I like to mix it up with easy ones and challenging ones. And when I say easy, I don't really necessarily mean easy, but I guess simpler, so you can connect with more of the body awareness component, because that's another huge piece that I personally like to emphasize is coordination, body awareness, proprioception, things like that, because that's what allows us to move fluidly like we do. Okay. Next one. Okay, more balance. I do a lot of stuff with unilateral stances. So for this, you're going to start with one knee in the air at a 90 degree angle, and your hands are going to be clasped like so out in front of you. From this position, you want to make sure that your shoulders are retracted. So you can even take a moment to feel into the range of motion here, retraction and protraction, before we start. So pull those shoulders back into retraction. From here, we are going to lift the heel of the base leg 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So 3 single leg calf raises. If that's super challenging to stay balanced, you can hold on to something, maybe put a chair next to you, or just not lift the heel quite as high. And then the next component of this sequence, we will be engaging our core by bringing our arms and knee opposite of each other and pulsing 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then the last component, this is the transition over to the other leg. We're going to do a squat in between. So we're going to step down, squat, lift the other knee. From here, 3 calf raises. 2, 3, keep those shoulders pulled back. And then moving the arms and leg in opposition. So bringing the right leg across and the arms over top. 1, 2, 3. And as you do this, you want to feel your spine maintaining that alignment. And it's the shoulder blades and pelvis that are doing the movement via the core. Oh, there, I messed that up. I stopped. All right, and then squat, same thing other side. So now that you got the sequence all together, let's keep it fluid. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Squat, switch. Getting a little bit of anterior delt activation as we're holding our arms out here. Getting an isometric muscle engagement there. 3 calf raises. 3 twists. Keep those shoulders back. Head back 2. Head position can actually contribute to balance capabilities more so than you would think. Our head is pretty heavy, and so when we either look down or back or side to side, that then changes the center of gravity for our whole body, which requires our core to adapt accordingly. I don't know if I did the calf raises. Sometimes when I'm talking and doing a sequence, I might miss a component. So let me focus here for a second while we finish this round up. A few more each side. And then another way to advance this, do a few pulses in that squat before coming up to the other side. Shoulders are back, spine is straight up. Let's do 2 more each side. 2 more rounds. 3, 1, 2, 3. Working on ankle, knee, and hip stability as we go into this rotational component. Well, actually, the whole thing, just standing on one leg, requires a lot of muscle coherence. Last one each way. 1, 2, 3. Twist. 1, 2, 3. Shoulders are still back. Last one, other side. If your arms are burning and you're sticking with it, great job. Finish strong right here. Last one. 1, 2, and 3. Woo! Shake out your arms. Shake out your legs. Maybe even shake out those ankles. Our ankle stabilizers get a lot of attention anytime we're standing on one foot. Woo-wee. Grab some water if you need it. Hydration is so important for this type of fascial work. All right, one more fitness sequence, and then we're getting to the fascia stuff. Or technically, we've been working with fascia this whole time, but isolate the fascial work, I should say. Ooh, excuse me. All right. Last one. This one's a little bit more challenging. There's going to be 2 variations you can do for this. I tip this down so y'all can see. Okay, lunge variation. We're going to start off lunge like normal, but you want to think about keeping your back leg straight, so that way we're increasing mobility, getting a nice little stretch through those hip flexors and deep psoas. From here, you're going to pulse 1, 2, 3. Allow the back knee to relax and bring your hands down by that foot. From here, all you're going to do is bring the foot back as far as you can, and then back to the lunge, stand up and switch. So I'm going to switch each time. Coming to the left, hold, feel the stretch, pulse 1, 2, 3, very gently. Listen to your body. Don't bounce too hard. You want to keep your core strong as you do this to make sure that the weight's distributed in the proper way through both your lower and upper body. After 3 pulses, hands go by the foot. Slowly reach that foot back as far as you can. And it's not necessarily a push-up position, but rather just, I guess it's like a 3-point push-up position. But anyways, you get the idea. It's actually part of a animal flow sequence. So like always, find your own rhythm. You don't have to stay at my tempo. You can go faster, slower, whatever. So as we're in this position, I know TikTok can't really see my knee, but YouTube can. We're getting deep toe and 90-degree knee flexion while bearing weight as we're reaching the opposite foot back and then coming in. Whew. Really important for knee, ankle, and hip health. Lunge, pulse 1, 2, 3. Drop it down. Feel strong and stable in your shoulders. Reach that foot back as far as you can. So you're pressing through the base of your wrist, loading up deep toe flexion there. Bring it back, stand it up, explode off that front leg. Brownie points if you can catch balance in between each lunge. See a few more. Big lunge, pulse 1, 2, 3. Melt down through the front of or top of the spine. Plant the hands, reach that foot back. Whew. And up. Just a few more. I want to make sure we have plenty of time for the fascial stuff, or the fascial maneuvers. 1, 2, 3. And back. Up. Explode. Last one each way. This ballistic, like stretching, the bouncing component I'm referring to here, is really good for training fascial's elasticity component. The more elastic fascia is, the healthier it is, and the younger it is. As we get old, our fascia gets almost dried out and becomes brittle, and that shows through our skin and our movement patterns. So doing, like I mentioned, ballistic, the slight bouncing repetitions, getting that incorporated is helping with that elasticity component. All right, last one, other side. I got to hold this one a second longer since I was holding the other side, explaining that. So just bounce, hold. Don't forget to breathe, 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 breathe. Plant the hands, reach it back, and up. Woo, very nice. Shake out your legs. Out of tea. All right, so now we have 12 minutes to finish up these last 3 things. I'm probably going to have to switch up the one that takes a little bit more time for one that takes less time. But if we don't get to it today, I'll make sure to save it for next week. Whew. right, here we go. We are first going to open up the lateral side of our body. We are going to be working with internal pressure regulation and a little bit of torque therapy in combination with conscious movement. So there's going to be a lot going on. Just try to follow my cues the best that you can and listen to your body the best that you can. So as I'm giving you cues, you don't have to go to the angle or range of motion that I'm demonstrating. Listen to your body on when to stop. I am pretty flexible. I've been doing fascial work for a while, and I have background in gymnastics. So don't gauge your flexibility on me. Wherever you are is completely okay. Just stay compassionate and patient with yourself through some of the more challenging ones. All right, for this one, we are going to be torquing the elbow, bringing our body into a counter-rotated position that extends the lateral meridian associated with the gallbladder. And then we are going to engage what's called a spinal pelvic lock, and then breathe 6 times in and out the mouth. I'll explain the details or any questions you have as to why we do something afterwards, but we're just going to do it and you can feel for yourself. So go ahead. Oh yeah, and when I say spinal pelvic lock, that basically is like a Kegel in yoga or a root lock. So you want to feel the pelvic floor lifting up and the belly button pulling back, and you're going to hold that. You're naturally going to relax, so you have to consciously remind yourself to keep that engaged in order to get the most out of this fascial maneuver, because what it's doing is generating internal pressure, so that way as we breathe and expand, it forces our breath under and through all the little layers and fascia and crevices of our fascia, so it helps to better expand the fascial system as a whole. So keep that spinal pelvic lock nice and strong. All right, so make sure your elbow is exposed. If you have to do it over your clothes, you can, but you will get a better result if you pull your sleeve up. Take your right hand like so with your fingers facing up towards the sky. Now take your left hand and bring it right over top or right underneath your elbow joint. Now before you grab the elbow and continue to torque, you're going to make sure that the hand that's grabbing that elbow is going to tuck in towards your belly button. This is going to ensure you can get the most torque. Go ahead and grab the elbow now. You want to feel your fingers and hands suction cup to the skin. So now as you lift the elbow of the hand that's grabbing on, you're going to twist it out. And then to increase the torque, you're then going to dive your other hand down underneath it like so. So by the time you get to that end range, there should be a huge torque that we are going to hold here for the rest of this maneuver. Now bring your hands over your head. Hold that torque the entire time. Ground your feet. Engage that spinal pelvic lock or root lock or Kegel. And now slowly lean to the right and lean to the left and look to the right. Leaning away from the elbow you're twisting, looking towards the elbow you're twisting. From here, 6 deep breaths in and out the mouth while keeping that spinal pelvic lock strong. 1, 2, notice as your rib cage expands how the stretch increases. 3, lean a little further. 4, go into 6, 5, lean a little further, listen to your body, and 6. Good. Keep the elbow gripped nice and tight, but stand back up. Take the leg of the elbow side you're twisting, bring it back behind you, and add a diagonal. The farther you step back, the more you're going to feel this in your hips. So listen to your body and what it needs. Now we're going to lunge forward, lean back to the left like we were before, look to the right like we were before, and now 6 more breaths. Engage that spinal pelvic lock. 1, notice the line of pull from your right elbow all the way down to the outside of your right foot. 2, 3, the bigger you breathe, the more the fascia will release. 4, you can sink deeper, you can stand up higher, make micro adjustments as you need. 5, and 6. Very slowly bring your shoulders back to neutral, step that foot underneath, release your hands, maybe shake them out. And something we do differently with fascial maneuvers than we did in all the other exercises is we need time to integrate any of those internal pressure shifts that were made among or within the fascia. So to do that, we are going to walk around. So as you're walking, just notice how the right side of your body feels. Bring your right ear to your right shoulder and your left ear to your left shoulder. Whew, I got a release even in my neck. I was not expecting that. So because our fascia is a holistic net that literally interfaces every system in our body, when we're working with one area, it's going to have a ripple effect throughout the entire structure. A big role that fascia, or something that fascia does, is it's about balancing and redistributing pressure and force within our physical system. So when we remove any tension from one area, it's going to free up the entire body, to keep it simple. All right, let's go ahead and do the other side, and that's probably all we're going to have time for today. Joe will be going live with discussion on this very channel and this very live in about 5 minutes. So let's finish it up. All right, same thing, other side. Left hand in the air like so. Take your right hand, hover it just underneath your left elbow. With the hand that's about to grab, tuck that elbow in towards your belly button. Grab the elbow. Lift the right up, twisting the left elbows outwards. And now to continue and increase that torque, dive your left hand under your right bicep. So by the time your left hand gets under your right arm, you should have a really deep twist here. Hold that in place the whole time. Bring it over your head. Ground your feet about hip width apart and engage that spinal pelvic lock, which is like a Kegel or root lock. So squeeze the pelvic floor. Now you're going to look to the left and then slowly lean, tip your shoulders over to the right like a teapot. From here, 6 deep breaths through the mouth. 1, 2, notice how the pull increases as your rib cage expands. 3, 4, listen to your body. 5, and 6. Keep the elbow gripped nice and tight, but bring your shoulders to neutral. With the leg on the same side of the elbow you're twisting, step back behind you and then at a diagonal. The farther you step away, the deeper you'll feel it in the hips. Find what works best for you. Slightly lean those hips forward into a lunge. Tip to the right, look to the left. Strong spinal pelvic lock the whole time. Last 6 breaths, in and out the mouth. 1, 2, just feel your body. Feel what's stretching, feel what's pulling. 3, notice that line of pull from that elbow all the way down to the outside of your back foot. 4, slow, deep breaths. 5, pull your left elbow with your right hand farther away, farther over. Last breath, and 6. Oh, wow. Bring your shoulders back to neutral and step your foot underneath your hips. Release your hands, roll your shoulders, shake it out, and walk around. And as you're walking around, tune into your body. See what changed. When we take a moment to mentally check in, this helps to improve our, interoception. I almost said proprioception. That a little bit too, but when we tune in with our body, we're working on our interoception, which is all about our ability to not only perceive, but understand what's going on inside of us. So a little tweak here, or my stomach feels like this. Like what is your body trying to signal to your mind? Because at the end of the day, all pain, emotions, sensations felt within the body is just the body trying to communicate with the mind. Okay, so as we begin to advance and expand our body awareness, the mental relationship with that also improves. All right, so that is going to be it for today. Thank you, everyone who attended. Again, I am streaming both on TikTok and YouTube right now. The YouTube chat is on, but I turned the TikTok chat off for today just so I could, just to avoid overwhelm. So, yeah. Let me know, anyone who's here in the YouTube chat, how you're feeling. How's your body responding? Whew. How is your overall well-being doing? I definitely feel a little bit more, actually a lot more loose, fluid, feel more calm, feel a little greater sense of clarity. The beauty of movement. Movement is medicine, guys. Spatial medicine, coined by Thomas Myers, our relation to how our body moves in time, which kind of taps into bioenergetics as well. Yeah, I could go down that rabbit hole, but I do not have time for that rabbit hole today. So Joe should be coming in here any second now. Well, I was hoping you could hear me say that. Today was a great session. Definitely got to improve some positions. Nice. I feel energized, grounded with my body. Oh, that's awesome. That makes me so happy to hear. Thank you for sharing, Samantha, and thank you for being here. Yeah, my intention is to help people feel good in their body, creating physical freedom within your body so you're not limited in the things you want to do in life. Anyways, I'll end it on that.
Hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to take like a 5-ish minute break, and then I'll be back. We're going to do a little discussion. Yeah, so should be good. I'm going to talk about the law of succession of forces, like I mentioned in the video last night. I actually want to talk a little bit about an article that my friend Laura sent me. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I did a video a few years back with my friend Laura, who is a Heilkünstler. There's the Lauras. I've got the Lauras, and one of them is a Heilkünstler. The other one just became a Heilkünstler, and that's what I'm going to be going to school for as well. But basically, she sent me an article by someone, and it talked about some things having to do with like soul contracts and karma and the idea of this being a polarized reality and us going through like all this suffering and lessons and so on. And like maybe the idea that like we don't actually have to do any of that. So I'm just gonna like chew on that a little bit. And then any questions you guys feel like you want to ask, you can go there too. So we'll see you in about 5.
Yep.
And we'll get started.
I mentioned that idea on one of my other TikTok lives earlier this week. So if you're interested in hearing Joe's thoughts on that, he is well versed in all things metaphysics, twin flames, and energy. So if you want to hear his perspective on that, you can check him out on Joe Fortin. I mean on YouTube at Joe Fortin, whatever, you know what I mean. So that is going to be all for today. Next live, I'll be back to having the comment section on so I can interact with you a little bit more. But on that note, much gratitude, much love, namaste, and peace out. Okay, bye guys.
And yeah, for those of you on the YouTube, that was for TikTok, so I'll be back in 5.
Yeah. I mentioned it a couple times for anyone that was popping in. You like the fish tank in the background?
Yeah. Yeah, get started.
One thing. The fish tank? It's not over there. Oh, okay. I didn't want that to fall down.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We're back. Hi, Crystal. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see all you guys. Hey, Sentinel. Hey, Greatest Ever. Hey, Samantha. I appreciate you guys showing up every week. It's really cool to have, a little rapport with you guys. And yeah, it's always good to see you. So if you saw the video last night that we released, we had planned to do like an open panel Zoom class, and we basically did that, and it did not work out, but we're going to make some adjustments. Someone basically bombed the class, so don't know who that was or what that was about, but it's whatever. We're going to have it. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it next week, but we're going to have you pre-register. So if you're here, if you would like to be in Sydney's class next week, we're going to be doing the same thing, same time. And there will be a pre-registration. So we will release some details in the next few days as to how you can do that. I'm just going to either do something by email, or we can put something on the website where, there's like a sign-up link, but there will be a sign-up link. And yeah, so that way we can keep out any riffraff. But yeah, so moving on, I'm going to talk about, well, like I said, the law of succession of forces a little bit. This is something that I have tried to find material on online, and I haven't found like anything except for there's like one Heilkunst article that mentions it, right? And it's like a blog post by a prominent Heilkunstler, which if you're not familiar with that, it's like a system of medicine that heavily utilizes homeopathy, but it's basically a set of principles. It's not really a modality in and of itself. It utilizes modalities, but they draw upon the knowledge of Western medicine, Eastern medicine, a lot upon people like Rudolf Steiner, Wilhelm Reich, Enderling. They study a lot of people. They go into like germ versus terrain theory, Pasteur, and Béchamp, and but there's a lot of material in there that basically is like really tough to find publicly, but if you go to the school, they have it all, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm actually thinking about getting started on that soon, so I'm really excited about that. I've been waiting for a long time, basically I needed to get through my treatment protocol to a degree where I felt like solid enough and like grounded enough and had enough stability in my life where I would be able to take on the workload of actually doing, that, going to the school. But I think, I'm there now. Things are good. And so I'm going to get started. The other thing that's really cool is this is the Hahnemann Center for Heilkunst and Homeopathy. It is an online school, basically. So you can do the whole thing online. It is at your own pace. It is, you work with tutors, but there's not like deadlines and stuff. And that's kind of one of the things that screwed me up when I went back to college. The last few times I did that, I've done that like 3 times. And inevitably what would happen is like a bunch of stuff would happen in my life and I would become like very ungrounded and I wouldn't be able to focus. The last time I went back to school, I was actually getting the highest grade in both of the classes that I was enrolled in. I had like a 97 average, And I ended up dropping out in the last 2 weeks of class because I was overwhelmed because I had to move. I had like a bunch of stuff happen like in the space of like 3 weeks. And like I freaked out. And this is like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't have freakouts like that anymore, of like really like healed like my PTSD and my trauma to a degree where like that doesn't happen anymore. But back then I did. And so, you know, that's a testament to, you know, what I've been doing, right? Like Heilkunst works, okay? Like these remedies work. And I'm on here to show that that is the case, right? Like that's like the whole point of my channel. Like I know that I was a shit show before. Like I know that things were not good. Like I know that like, yeah, I had addiction issues and like a bunch of problems. I displayed that like, you know, the way that I did on purpose so that I could show the progression basically. So this is where we are now. Still far from perfect, still things to work through, still growth that is attainable, right? And like that's cool. You know, then you can put a positive spin on that and be like, look at how much more I can grow. I'm only 25% of the way through the timeline, and like I've already changed it this much. What is it? What else is possible, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, let's get back to the topic at hand, the law of succession of forces. I've talked about this before in previous lives, but it's been happening to a degree that's like absurd. And Sydney and I actually talked about writing down all of they're called occurrence in Heilkunst, right? But basically synchronicities that have been occurring with my Heilkunst timeline, right? And so briefly, for those who are new, I'll explain again. In Heilkunst, you do a trauma timeline. When you go in for your first appointment, they ask you to write down every single trauma that you've ever been through from that time till birth, right? And then you take remedies every 2 weeks. You know, it can be 2 to 3 weeks. You can take breaks if you want. You can space things out any way that you want. But every couple of weeks, you take a packet. The packet is designed to release the energy of that particular trauma. Traumas can come in various forms. It could be emotional, could be physical, could be medical, could be, you know, medication, could be, you know, needlecraft, right? Could be a bunch of different things that you could be addressing. But that's essentially the formula. That's cool that Randy is noticing as well. It's interesting when you have a close relationship with someone who doesn't see those things and then they start to. I've had that experience a little bit with some of my family members. Like it was kind of funny because like if you've been watching the channel, like I shouted from the rooftops for years about these things. Like, why can't you see this? Like, come on, please. Like, you know, to me, it's like so obvious. And like, and they just thought I was crazy. But like now, like people are like, you know, people are waking up to like various degrees. So it's pretty neat. But yeah, so basically what happens when you do the trauma timeline, what can happen when you release these energies is you'll dip into that energy, right? And this will correspond with the astrological cycles. This is where it gets really complex and it gets kind of cool because I like looking at all these little intricacies. But you guys are probably familiar, like if you, you know, the moon moves into different signs, right? And the planets move into various signs at different times, right? And like, you know, one of the things that'll happen is like, for example, people put a lot of emphasis on the full moon because the moon corresponds with our emotional state a lot. And so people will like put out articles like, okay, it's the full moon in Scorpio this month. This is what we're going to be releasing. Well, what happens is that the being basically every couple of weeks, right, which is a typical, you know, schedule for people, I guess you would say, every couple of weeks, the being kicks up these energies and these traumas, right? And it corresponds with the cycles, the astrological cycles. Now, what will happen is a few different things that can happen. This can cause traumas to reoccur. You know, so basically you go into the energy and your reality starts reflecting that energy, right? And so you might re-experience a trauma. You might play out something that's in your ancestral lineage, right? That's related to that energy that maybe you haven't seen before, but it's in your field, right? It's in your genetics. Now, what can happen, you can also just start feeling things like like a big one is like anniversaries of stuff. You might like start feeling like crap on the year anniversary of, a breakup or a death or something like that. And you might not even be like consciously aware of it, but it can happen. But anyway, so like on a subconscious, unconscious level, what happens is like these energies get kicked up, right? Well, how Kunst does, if it's being done properly, is it will actually sync up with the way that that's flowing. And you'll start to notice that your remedies will correspond with the things that are kicking up, right? Conversely, the remedies will kick up things that you cause your reality to shift a little bit so that that energy can be moved through. Now, this happens naturally for people. And when it happens naturally, people can sometimes go even deeper into the energy. And so they might re-experience a trauma and actually have a worse version of it and actually have it like, basically that energy build more, right? That's totally possible, which would actually make it so that you have more than to heal later. Or, you can have a reoccurrence where it kind of is just exactly the same thing and you just repeat it, right? And this is very often just like what people do. Like they just continually re-experience the same traumas, the same things, like their entire life, their mindset, their worldview, their outlook, their beliefs about themselves and the world can shape it in such a way that like these types of things happen, right? Like for me, like, let's be totally honest, like one of them for me is like whenever I start building forward momentum, someone or something in my external environment comes in and fucks it up, like kind of what just happened, right? Now, in the past, I've like let that stuff get to me and I've like, gotten super emotional about it. And like I've had a meltdown and I've come on here and like gotten all angry and like added to that energy. But like really like what my being is calling for me to do is just to like ignore that shit and like move forward. So that's like what we're doing right now. Yeah. So the other thing that can happen naturally is that you can naturally, just through the course of like maturation, respond differently to whatever's happening, like whatever is being re-experienced, right? The ultimate like idea here, and I'm gonna flip the script on you guys in a little while and talk about another perspective. But the ultimate idea here is to shift the energy, shift the way that you respond to your reality, and to move up a rung in the vibrational scale. So if you generally respond with like anger, you can move up the tone scale, so to speak, or the vibrational emotional scale, which you can just look up like David R. Hawkins, Power versus Force, like look at the tone scale there. But the idea is to move up a rung or even a few rungs, right? To increase your vibrational resonance within that particular like archetypal story, like that pattern, right? Evolve it up to a better, higher version of the story. Better, right? It's a different version, but in terms of like ascension, it is like higher up on the scale and bringing you closer to God, to oneness, to source, right? Now, again, that can happen naturally. What Halkunst does is it kind of like forces this to happen, right? So it's kind of like, it's actually a very yang healing modality. Like if you take a remedy, like you are going to purge the energy. Like you can't avoid it. That's why I've been afraid of them sometimes, because like some of them, especially if you're in like the type of place that I was in, when I would take a remedy, the charge, because I had so much trauma and so much emotion and like so much dysfunction, when I would take a remedy, it would make my whole body feel like it was on fire. And like, it would be like totally intolerable for me to be in my body and to be in my mind and to be, you know what I mean? Like to be here. Right. It was like suffering on a really high level. But afterwards, like the degree of improvement that I would see would often correspond with how difficult the remedy was to go through. Again, I'm going to flip the script on you guys in a minute here. But like, that's what Halkunst does. So Halkunst like smacks you in the face with healing. It's like, you're going to heal, like, like fall in line. But it's really powerful, and it is by by far the best, most effective modality that I've seen. And the other thing that's cool about it is that like you don't really have to learn anything. You don't have to like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't learn anything, but you could go do a trauma timeline with a Heilkünstler and like theoretically like not study any of these things, and you will move up that scale, right? So in a sense, it's great. I think that there needs to come a time where you do your own learning and you do learn how to do it, like do these things within yourself. And, you know, I think that most of the people that would be attracted to that type of thing are going to end up on that trajectory anyway. But for someone who's in a really, really dense, like traumatized place where they like, maybe they can't do the work. Like I couldn't do any of the regimental work in the beginning, which was like structuring your day, you know, fixing your diet, you know, those types of things, like, you know, dropping substances and so on and so forth. I said on my channel, and I knew that it was correct, which is basically like, I need to work on the underlying emotional energy that causes me to feel the need to use a substance. And once I do that to a great enough degree, I won't need the substance anymore, right? Because I'm using the substance as a coping mechanism for this emotion that's causing my body to feel physical pain, right? Because it's literally tensing up, you know, my bioenergetic field and my chakras and my muscles, right? It's causing me to have bioenergetic holding patterns that have literally become painful, right? That have literally created like chronic, long-term, pretty severe pain in my body. But as you release the emotional energy and the disease energy and the trauma beneath that, those things start to become alleviated. And so there's multiple angles of attack, right, that you can take on healing, right? It's like, you know, Cindy and I kind of have opposite approaches. I've been a very heady, like mind-oriented person, right? I'm like, all right, I need to think about this. I need to figure it out. I need to look at it. And I need, you know, and I'll take a Heilkünstler. Sydney's approach, and that will then help my body, right? But Sydney's approach has been to like work on the body, right? And which then has, you know, corresponding emotional release, and then the thoughts follow, right? So it's not like a one size fits all process. Like there's multiple ways that you can heal. There's multiple ways that you can do this. You can combine things. You can do your own thing. Like there is no rule book, right? Heilkunst would like you to think that there's a rule book. And I have the utmost respect for Heilkunst, and like I'm going to go to their school. There are certain things off the top like that I have looked at and been like, at this particular time, I don't agree with that belief system, like the idea of karma we're going to talk about in a minute. But that being said, it's a marvelous set of tools. And yeah, so I would highly recommend it to anybody who is dealing with chronic emotions, dealing with chronic like obsessive compulsive thinking, dealing with PTSD. If you're needing to use substances as a coping mechanism because the charge of your emotions and the pain in your body is too much to bear, right? Like I did like most of my life, this will help you. But be warned, it is not easy, and you will have to face your shit. Like, and yeah, it's not an easy thing, but the process of ascension, as we have had it explained to us, is that, right? It's you're going to face these things, you're going to move through them, you're going to feel them, you're going to then move up in vibration slowly, right? So Crystal says, I've also been very heady, and when I follow along with Sydney, I feel relief immediately. I can tell my body is starved for these movements. That's awesome, Crystal, and I'm really glad that you're following along and doing these. I don't know if you'll want to join us next week for the Zoom. If you want to come on camera, I would love it. I would love it if you did, but if you don't want to, that's okay. But either way, I'm really glad that they're helping you, and I'm really glad that you know, you're enjoying Sydney's instruction. Yeah, she is a wealth of knowledge, and she's really good at what she does. And you know, she's definitely helped me with a lot of stuff. And my biggest thing is like, I can't get out of my own way sometimes. So it's like, you know, she has all this knowledge and all these things that she can do. But I I get blocked within myself and basically like stop myself from actually doing them, right? But if you follow what she teaches, like, yeah, you can correct a lot of things in your body. So back to the law of succession of forces. I've been going on quite a few tangents today. I feel like they were useful tangents, though. I have been experiencing the timeline that I went through backwards, and I want to talk a little bit about my theory about that. And apparently, I talked to Laura the Heilkünstler, and she told me that in Steiner's writings, he actually writes about the descent, right? And so the idea, and this aligns with what I've talked about like me having a shamanic initiation. Like I descended into like my own hell, basically. You could call it a hell realm, right? But what I was doing was like descending into my own shadow. I was manifesting it. It was like in 3D. Like I couldn't not look at it, right? And I was forced to like face like the darkest parts of myself. And there's two ways you can go there. You can keep going that way, which is a choice I could have made, right? And you can become a dark one, right? And there are forces here that will try to get you to do that. I've talked about that before. Or you can decide to transcend and transmute it, and you can. There's different theories about this. Integrate the shadow. I've always looked at it as integrate the shadow. Some other people, though, have said, Ashana Dean goes into some really technical stuff where, essentially she talks about some of the aspects actually not being something that are at a point where you can still absorb them. Like some of them are like some of the aspects of self are like so far gone that the best course of action is actually to let go of them. But I am not well versed enough in that particular line of thinking to really delve into it, but it is something that she has spoken about. She's one of my favorite teachers. Highly recommend watching her lectures on BitChute. There is a channel called Chaos Library. I mention it quite often. But so through that descent, right, it's like I was forced to face the darkest parts of myself. I want to explain something about timelines that I'm seeing that I have not ever put into words really, but I'm seeing it. And I think that there's something to this, right? I think that when we go into like trauma timelines and negative polarities, like say something pops up in our field when we're in that descent, I think that time is actually running backwards. It's always going to appear to be running forwards and be linear. But if you go on to Lisa Renee's website, ascensionglossary.com, and read some of the articles on there about timelines, she will talk about this. And she will be like, basically, like some people that are in like dark energy will be running reverse timelines and not know it, right? And I think that is what was happening. So I think what happened was I had stuff come into my field that was dark and demonic. And it actually like put me in a shadow realm. I was running a reverse timeline. And now what I'm doing with the remedies and with this work is I'm actually moving back through that and getting back up to level, right? Like I'm getting to ground zero where I'm actually like on a completely forward trajectory, right? The other thing about this is that there are multiple timelines running concurrently. So this trauma has like its own timeline, right? This trauma, right, represented in the chakra system, in the body, in the different realms, right? If you overlay the Cathara grid or, in this particular sphere, the Kabbalic tree of life over the chakra system, right? There's a trauma, right, that I went through. It left a mark on my body. When the energy coming up from the root gets to that point, it like deviates, right? And that actually represents a physical timeline that can manifest that you can get stuck in, and you can go on that trajectory and become that like darkened version of yourself. And what you're doing here is you're pulling it back. You're pulling it back to center. You're pulling it back to the heart, right? And it actually has a physical correspondence in time that you can observe if you can put all these pieces together, which is like, I don't know. I feel I just got like all these downloads and like holographic images years ago, and like it's just like there are certain things that are like these giant puzzles that my brain just puts together, and I'm like, oh, okay, that looks significant. It looks like there's a pattern there. It looks like these things are linked, right? It looks synchronistic. I'm trying to explain it, and me explaining it to you guys helps me understand it, especially when you ask questions. When you ask questions, it spurs thinking for me, and because you guys have another perspective, it allows me to actually think about it from your perspective and see it in a different way, which can add to the entire puzzle. But yeah, I really think that what I just said, it may not be exactly what's happening, but there's something to it. There's something to it, because like, I mean, basically the packets that I'm taking for remedies right now are addressing a period of time like 8 or 9 years ago, and I was living in Maine, where I am now, and I was living in my grandparents' old house with my first really long-term girlfriend, and like I was having a lot of problems, and it's just funny because like there's so many things. There's probably like 30 things that I've noticed in the last month that I keep looking at Sydney and going, you know, when the last time that happened was 8 years ago. Like one of the things, it's like a small thing, right? I made French toast the other day. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't think I've made French toast since I was living on, River Road. Huh, that's weird. I had a compulsion to eat. I had a compulsion to eat coffee Haagen-Dazs ice cream with caramel syrup. When was the last time I ate that? About 8 years ago. Huh. Oh, this particular person showed up in my life that, and again, I'll just be honest. One of my best friends at the time overdosed in front of me, and I had to shoot him up with Suboxone, which is Narcan. It stopped breathing, and his heart basically almost stopped. And I had to shoot him up with Narcan and bring him back. And he showed up. I hadn't seen him in years, and he showed up and said hi to me the other day. And the list just goes on and on and on and on, right? And this has not just been happening in the last couple of months. This has been happening since I started doing Halkans. The thing is, like, now that I'm aware of it, like, I've started noticing it more. Like, the original girl that I talk about on my channel that I had said I thought was my twin flame, right? Like, the original one. Right when lockdowns happened, I took a packet having to do with my emotional state about her years prior. And she contacted me. She showed up. Took a packet for fear about Scientology. 2 days later, they called me after not having any communication with them for years. Like the list goes on and on and on and on, right? So, yeah. Oh, that's Sydney in the chat, by the way. Sydney says, just seeing the message above, that makes my heart so happy to hear. Yes, our bodies are designed to move through so many more ranges and angles than mainstream teaches. Movement is medicine. Yeah, we were watching a YouTube video earlier about the fascia, and I think it's fascial tensegrity. And I'm going to let Sydney come on here and talk about that at some point. But really interesting, and really gives you a new perspective on the body and like how things actually work. Mainstream science has really like created like this rigid idea of like biomechanics, and it's not accurate. I think one of the reasons it appears accurate in this culture is because people are so stiff in general, right? Like, but yeah. So let's see. We covered the law of succession of forces. I'm done there. Okay, let's move to the second component, and then that'll be probably all I'm going to talk about today. So I read an article that my friend Laura sent me. Not the Halkkunstler Laura, my friend Laura, who's also a Halkkunstler. I know, it's confusing. So let me pull that up because I just want to actually share it with you guys. It was on a website called ascensionhelp.com, and the guy's name was Cameron Day. He has been kind of out of the game for a while. I think he made I saw him make a podcast like maybe around 2017. This is older stuff. It's like from like 2012 or so. but it's totally still relevant. And well, why don't I share my thoughts first about like why he's out of the game? So like what happened to me earlier, right? That type of interference, anybody who's teaching like the Qigong science information or like how we've been deceived and like what's actually going on with the polarization and distortion of this reality field, like people who teach like what's really going on, this type of interference is constant. It is constant. It is something that basically, like, if you start doing this, like, you will deal with, and you just have to fucking learn how to deal with it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this, you know, we came here to fix this shit, and we're going to do our damnedest, and, you know, you put an obstacle in front of me, and I'm just going to move around it. Like, so, but anyway, yeah, so I think that's probably why he's gotten a little quieter. And I think that's also why Asha Nadim's gotten quieter. That's also why Lisa Renee has gotten quieter, right? Because like at a certain point, putting yourself on a public forum and like openly discussing these things, it's actually counterproductive. I'm going into a level of it that's like an introductory level, right? If you guys want like the real deal and you want me to tell you exactly what I think is going on with all of this shit, it's either going to have to be like in Patreon content or you have to book a session. That's it, right? Like, because I just can't anymore. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for anybody, because yeah, it's just too much. So Cameron Day, he was talking about the idea. I think the article is entitled "The Lords of Karma." He was talking about the idea that the fact that we've been, he says that we've been tricked into reincarnating here. People in the near-death experiences, seeing the white light and having the person show up and convince them that they were a bad person, that like they need to come back and do it again. He says that's a lie. He says that basically what's happening is like dark beings are actually the ones doing all of this shit. And what happens is there's like a transference that occurs because they trick us into thinking that it was in a past life of ours because they've wiped our memory with the blank slate technology. And basically they make us feel guilty and they make us feel like we have to fix that, right? That's our karma to deal with. But what happens is because we're actually assuming responsibility for it, it actually sort of does become a responsibility, right? And then we spend eons and lifetimes like going through this hamster wheel over and over again, having our energy drained, and it's false. It's a lie, right? Now, that fairly well aligns with like the quantum science information that I'm aware of. The original architecture of this place was not set up in a way where you had like a luciferic Kabbalic tree, right, with its inverted satanic or clipothic counterpart, right? That was not the original template. It's not the original design. The original design is a Cathara grid. It cannot be inverted. It is connected to source energy. There is no vampirism. There is no there's nobody screws with your free will, and none of this false crap, this suffering and karma and all these things exists in a reality field that is structured in the original template. Now, I agree with him. I think that he's right. I think that that's accurate. And I think that basically what we've done is because our memories are wiped, we've continually and repeatedly for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime taken responsibility and signed up for contracts for us to incur and deal with karma that actually we shouldn't ever have had to deal with at all. And I think that the New Age is serving to reinforce that, right? It's like, so people start having an awakening and then they get diverted into the New Age, right? And then they get reprogrammed there and like told that basically like, yeah, you've got to do this. And this is the ascension process and da, 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 da. And they engage in spiritual bypassing. And basically they become polarized Luciferic versions of themselves. So they become like the false light beings, like the, you know, demiurge and all that, right? And they're tricked again. And then, you know, the people that are really lost end up going the Klipothic direction and becoming, you know, satanic, right? And so, it's unfortunately, it's somewhat rare to see people that are actually like, can see all this and like are teaching the real deal. And most generally, like, there are also people that like aren't necessarily really good at like the 3D stuff. So like Asha and Nadine, like kind of like didn't even know how to use a computer. Lisa Renee is probably the most like put together person that I've seen that teaches this stuff. But like, we came from a place where things were not dense like this. Like, it wasn't like this. We're not good at operating in this type of realm. It's like, and we signed up for it, and like, we all obviously came here because we thought we were up to the task. But when you have your friggin' memory erased, you incur all this karma and trauma and bullshit, like it makes things really hard. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of the process is basically just like getting ourselves to this place where we can actually like operate well enough in a body in this inverted system that's designed to basically harvest your energy and throw every obstacle in your path they possibly can and confuse you. And like, if you do start really getting to the truth and you start really doing it, like, just come in and try to clobber you over the head with a hammer, make things as hard as they possibly can, right? At the same time, though, keeping you there, like they're not killing you, because you are a big juicy battery. You are a big juicy meal, right? Like, so the like, if you're a higher level indigo, right? It's like some of us would think, well, why don't they just get rid of us? That would be easier, right? Well, yeah, it would, but then they wouldn't have all this energy that we're pulling in for them, right? So, what they try to do is just keep you suppressed enough so that you never get to the point where you could really be effective. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. So, this says an hour and 22 minutes. I feel like I've been on here for a while. But I think I'm going to like, take a couple of more minutes. If the people here have any questions, feel free to shoot. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to call it a day. And I'll be back. I would really love to have a discussion about these things. I feel like, there's not a ton of people here today, but that's okay. I had a client recently who I was really impressed with. He had really done his research, and we've had some pretty powerful discussions, and he was aware of all these things, and he's been dealing with. I mean, his story was so similar to mine. I mean, people coming in pretending like they're offering help, or posing as good people, like basically being like conduits for satanic or luciferic energy, and just like confusing him and messing his life up. Like, it's anybody that I've seen that's like anywhere near the truth, that's what happens. They want to divert you. And ultimately, like, the satanic ones especially, like, they hate you. For no other reason than you are you. Like, they can't, it's basically like the vampire can't look in the mirror. It's Watiko can't look in the mirror, right? They can't stand the sight of their own reflection. And when you have all this light, you emanate that, and it just draws out the worst in a lot of people. And like I said, I am by no means saying that I'm perfect or, whatever. But I do believe that I carry a certain frequency of light in my heart. And I do think that it, definitely draws out some negative energies out of people. Like, it's coming at me from all angles all the time. Kind of gotten used to it, but still not fun. So Samantha, we do have plans to create a Patreon. So I'm not sure what the exact timeline on that is going to look like. But yes, we do have plans to create. Well, we have created a Patreon, right? We have one. We haven't put any content up there yet, but it is definitely in the works. It is definitely going to happen. And yeah, and that because it'll be paid content, and it won't be open to the public, so like anybody can just come watch and be a jerk. It will go into details about all the things that I won't talk about on here, basically. The one exception to that is I will not be giving nearly as many details as I used to about my personal life, simply because it's not necessary, and people across the board tend to not be responsible or mature enough to handle that information. And that is not saying anything negative about you guys, but there is a large swath of the population that they just don't have the maturity level to responsibly listen to that information and not do something stupid with it. So I don't need it, and so that's it's just my boundary for now. Then things can change later on. I might be able to be more open about certain things, later on when the dynamics are different. But yep, that's Sydney there. There will be an official launch on the Patreon. I'm not going to announce a date or timeline, but we are working on it. And when we feel like we're close, or we just, we're there, we have some content, we will definitely let you guys know. The other thing I'm going to be doing, I used to have like my old webpage had a sign up for a monthly newsletter. You could put your email in. The thing is, like, at the time, I just wasn't in the space to actually be writing a newsletter every month. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put the email sign up back on the website, but it's just going to be, it's not going to be a monthly newsletter. I'm not going to commit to that. It's going to be more of like a mailing list, right? So it will be there for us to send you guys announcements when things come up. Your email will not be shared with anyone. You will not be receiving any type of spam mail. It will literally just be for us to communicate things like, hey, we made a Patreon, or hey, we have a new class, or, that type of thing. So that will be something that I do very soon. And we're definitely moving forward with everything, and, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, making adjustments as necessary. Still have some editing to do on the website and stuff, but it's up if anybody wants a session. I've had a good number of clients recently. For me, I feel like it's a good start, and the people that have shown up have shown up. Like the people that have shown up are like doing the work. They've been well researched. They have been ambitious. They have been totally open and willing to have high level discussions. And it's actually been really great. Having people that are really willing to dig deep, So, again, like I said, it's on there, and we do have some modifications to make the website, but we're just chipping away at things. And, I've just got other obligations in, my personal life right now, like work, and I have a lot bigger load to carry than I used to. So I used to be able to put a lot more time into content and research and stuff like that. I'm trying to find a little bit of a balance with that. And I feel like doing the weekly live streams, I feel like it works for me. And I think that it definitely works for some of you guys, because a lot of you are here every week. And like I said, we really appreciate that. We're hoping to build a fairly good sized audience. Neither one of us wants to be like huge, because it's too much attention. We don't need it. But if we could get to the point where we had 40 or 50 people here every week, I think that would be awesome. And I think that we're going to get there. So I think I am going to call it a day. Thank you guys for coming and being with us. I hope that you enjoyed Sydney's class. She loves doing it, and she loves talking to you guys. And like I said, we both really enjoy these live streams. So we will be back at the very least next Saturday at 11 o'clock. Again, for those who may just be showing up, I will be in the next 2 or 3 days, I will be making a registration page or something thereof for those of you who would like to take part in a Zoom meeting. I will be increasing the level of security so that there's no fuckery. And yeah, we're going to move forward and just try to, lock that down a little bit. But there will be a pre-registration. You will have to pre-register if you're going to take part in the Zoom. And there basically will just be a Zoom meeting link with a password, and you guys can come on here and do that with us. And we would love for you to come. It would be a lot of fun. And again, there will be a discussion after with me. So if you guys want to come on camera and you want to speak to me and go back and forth, I'm even cool with the debate as long as you keep things respectful. I love debating people that are willing to listen to the other person's point of view and really chew on things. Because like my idea with a debate is like, we're trying to get at the truth. We're not trying to figure out who's right. We're not trying to argue. We're trying to figure out what the truth is, right? And we're running things by each other to give each other a different perspective so that we can get there, right? That's what my like idea of a debate is, right? I don't like the way that they run like debate teams and stuff like that, because I think the idea of debating for the purpose of winning is low vibes, man. It's like low density way of thinking. So yeah. Samantha had a question about what videos we can start learning about Qigong science. The best one that I'm aware of is it's a good primer and kind of just glosses over like the whole thing, like gives you like all the high notes. It is an interview that Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot did with Ashiana Dean, I think around like 2007. But don't quote me on that. But it's a 3-part series, okay? And you can find it on BitChute. Type in this. And I'm going to type it in here. Ashiana Dean, Project Camelot. And you will see a part 1, part 2, and part 3. It is about 6 hours long. It is worth watching every minute of it. It's dense. It's complex. I love it. Like the first time that was the first video I ever saw about Qigong science. And it's like my jaw hit the floor when I saw it, because I was like, this explains all of the questions that I've had that don't make sense about like what the, friggin' occultists and the New Agers and like all these people that are teaching things that don't quite feel right to me. This basically fills in all the blanks for me. And so highly recommend watching it. It might not be delivered in a format that is palatable to you. Because different styles of teaching and so on and so forth. I love the technical stuff and the diagrams and the mathematics and, getting into the nitty gritty of things. Some people just need more broad strokes. And for that, I'd go to Lisa Renee, go to ascensionglossary.com. However, I don't know that she has any like publicly available videos that specifically go into the basic quantum science information. But you can definitely read about it at ascensionglossary.com and energeticsynthesis.com. Highly recommend reading on both of those websites. Yeah, no worries. And, I've been talking about this stuff for a few years. I kind of took a little bit of a, slowed down for the last like year and a half or so. But we're getting back into the swing of things here. And I have a lot to unpack. Really, it's just about figuring out like what order I want to unpack it in, because there's like a lot of stuff that I've learned and I've witnessed and I've seen in the last couple of years that are totally at this point based on my own experience, because I wasn't doing any research, just connecting the dots, right, with like the twin flame information and all these different things. Twin flame stuff is really like what it was sort of the lens through which I learned everything else. Like, so I sort of see everything through that lens of corresponding relationships, right? With everyone, right? Not just with that person, but I see the energy that's manifested in our bodies and our psyches and in our emotions. And I see how that plays out in all of these interpersonal dynamics. And to me, it's just like very interesting how the like reality like warps around that, and how the idea of a separate ego being the source point of that, to me, seems like somewhat what's the word I'm looking for? Not obtuse, but myopic. It's all one thing, and we're all one thing. It's just broken down into little pieces, but they all always correspond with each other. So it kind of almost like, to me, makes the idea of free will seem a little bit iffy. I know that it is a thing, but like, it kind of makes me think like, okay, if everything is always corresponding and reflecting, then if that person does something, it's going to force me to respond in kind in some way. But maybe there's multiple angles and options that still reflect it, right? But just from a different vantage point that I can choose between, and maybe that's the free will, right? It's free will within, like a set of parameters, because it has to be, right? But anyway, we'll talk about that another time. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sydney, for putting the link in there. Okay, we're going to be done. Thank you guys for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next week. There will be a video in a couple of days with details on how to register for the class next week. And again, I would love to have a discussion with you guys. So if you feel like asking me some questions, come on in. Love you guys.
Bye.
Sid says bye.
Oh, I just sprinted down the stairs.
Okay. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.